Hey Merfolk fans, I'm Joe. Thanks very much for joining me today. If you'd like to support my channel, please check out the link above to my Patreon page. I'm here with a replay of the first round of a friendly league that I played recently with Benthic Biomancer and Deprives in the main deck. So I wanted to show you guys a bit of gameplay. I won the die roll, so let's have a look at the opening hand. Unfortunately, this is a mulligan. And this is a reluctant keep with a scry. I'd much rather be on the draw in this spot, since I'd have extra chances to hit my land drop. The Silvergill Adept is good because even if I scry a Mutavault, it's going to let me cast a Silvergill Adept and draw more cards. So I kept this. The opponent kept as well. Harbinger, unfortunately, has to get scryed to the bottom. So we'll open up with Benthic Biomancer. It seems like a good way to open up this league. Mountain into Mog Fanatics, so some kind of Goblins deck. Well, and they immediately blow up Ben there. So, unfortunately, I didn't draw land on my second turn, which is pretty terrible. And the opponent is going for... what is this? Earthshaker Kenra. So it's a 2/1 haster that, when it enters the battlefield, target creature with power less than or equal to this guy can't block. So any guys that are, 2 power or 1 power can't block this guy. Or a target creature can't block him. So he's getting in with haste. So I thankfully drew an island on time. And I'm just going to pass back to the opponent. In hindsight, I think that in this first game, I was a little shaky or a little bit tired and made some just like totally not sharp decisions. We see a Goblin Guide, and I have to let that go. It's not that, impactful. But then the opponent goes for a Bushwhacker, and in hindsight, I almost certainly should have deprived this. If I was going to use Trickster, Bushwhacker's going to come in. It's going to give itself haste. Well, it has haste, I guess. And all these guys are going to attack, and they're going to be buffed. Yeah, so by countering him, I'm basically killing him, and these guys are not getting bigger, so I would take 4. If instead I let it resolve, I flash in Trickster, tap down, say, Earthshaker Kenra, block and trade with Goblin Guide, and then take 2. Well, that seems decent, but I've got an opportunity to cast this Deprive that I left mana up for. This is not a matchup where counterspells are going to be that amazing, since it's so fast. But as it went, I decided to let it resolve, and then actually proceeded to make a mistake. Instead of tapping down the Kenra at the beginning of combat, and then blocking and trading with the Goblin Guide after I get the land trigger, I accidentally let them go to attacks, which, this is not how I typically play, but again, for whatever reason, it was a little bit loose. So the Goblin Guide did give me a land, which is about, as much as I can hope for in this spot, having missed my land drop on turn 2. So now I flash in the Trickster, and since I didn't tap down the Kenra to begin with, I think I'm just going to block that guy now, so that the Goblin Guide can potentially give me another land next turn. Prevent as much damage as we can at this point, and I took, I think, 5. Yeah, so pretty rough. So this turn, again, this is not a matchup where we can typically sit back on Deprives. I think I made another strange sequencing move. I think I ran out Ben, but then decided to get another body, so went with Silvergill Adept, but I really obviously should have done that in reverse, so I could have just revealed Ben. Not a big deal that I have to reveal a Lord, since opponents probably assume that we have one anyway, but just very, very inelegant, inefficient play. You guys can learn from my mistakes. Now, I've been away from Magic for a little while. I was feeling very uninspired with the list. I think everybody was doing a different thing. Some people are running Mistcallers, some people are running Curse Catcher, some people are running no 1-drops. There was sort of no cohesion within the community about what we should be doing. So yeah, I wasn't really playing for a while. And when you don't play for a while, you get a little bit rusty. So in the last couple of days, I've needed to, resharpen my instincts a little bit. So something I might have done differently in hindsight is probably play out a Lord, so that if the opponent attacks next turn, this turn with Legion Loyalist, my creatures will have 2 toughness, and I could potentially, eat this Legion Loyalist. As it went, they had another Bushwhacker, so now the creatures are going to have 2 power and first strike. So I was going to be outclassed regardless of what creature I play here. So missing that land drop on turn 2 was a huge setback in such a fast matchup. And my poor play didn't really help me very much. So I think I decided to stick it out since I wasn't technically dead on board yet. See what the opponent has. So Mog War Marshal brings 2 more bodies to the battlefield. And then 1 more Bushwhacker for... just for kicks, I guess. That's about as nutty as I've seen a hand from 8-Whack. I mean, I know it's what they do, but just curving out perfectly the combos of Legion Loyalist, and I think it was like starting on turn 3, just Bushwhacker, Bushwhacker, Bushwhacker. So when you put, poor play against the nut hand, you're not going to win that often. So let's go ahead to game 2 and see how I sideboarded. Hopefully played a little better as well. All right, we're back for game 2. I'm just going to pop open the sideboard here. So I'm pretty sure all I did was I took out 2 Spreading Seas. They're a mono-colored deck, so we're not really going to be able to screw their mana, but we do want to potentially have access to Island Walk. It wouldn't be the worst thing if we drew 1 or 2 of these guys. And I took out 2 Deprives. There's not too much more I could bring in. It's not really a graveyard-dependent deck at all. Venser is too expensive, and his effect against 1-drops is really not that strong. So I didn't have too much I could actually bring in. But what I did bring in is actually pretty strong. 2 Tidebinders, probably the best of what I had available. And then another Echoing Truth to supplement the Singleton in the deck already. And I brought in another Vendilion Clique because it's another body. So 1 interactive spell with Echoing Truth and then 3 more creatures. Took out 4 non-creatures, so not a huge change going into the second game. I'll be on the play again, and hopefully I've woken up a little bit at this point. This is a nice hand. Harbinger is going to be great, in theory. Master of Waves, obviously excellent. Goblin Guide wants to give us a land, I think. Let's see what he revealed. I guess we'll see in a second. Well, Vendilion Clique, a little bit awkward. But I did sideboard one of those guys in. I'm going to go ahead and just bounce this Goblin Guide now. Again, similar to Venser's effect, the bounce effect not being really efficient against 1-drops. At least with Harbinger, we can get him out earlier, prevent the opponent from getting too many creatures out on the board. Okay, so it looks like they're just going Burning Tree into something. Here's just that Goblin Guide. Oh, and a Signal Pest. So actually, it was pretty neat that I brought in the Vendilion Clique because it could potentially block a Signal Pest. So I got an island, and I gave it a good think about whether I wanted to trade or not. Pretty shortly, my creatures are going to be getting bigger with Lords on the table. But the way to win against these kinds of explosive decks is to keep their board presence really trim. So I decided to go with the trade here. We're just building towards Master of Waves with some amount of devotion. So let's go ahead and just kill their creatures where possible. Take AEther Vial to 2, and another AEther Vial is actually pretty interesting here. I'm going to get a Lord on the table and get a second AEther Vial. This game might not really go that long, but having another AEther Vial on 2 while I tick up to 4 for Master of Waves seems pretty solid. Could potentially blow the opponent out with another Lord in this spot. These kinds of goblin strategies, the 8-Whacks, where they just get a ton of little guys on the board, they attack every turn kind of no matter what you're doing. So they don't care, like, in a situation where I might have something. Like, if they're not attacking, they're going to lose. All right, so they do have a Legion Loyalist again this game, and Signal Pest is going to make these guys bigger. Fortunately for me, I do have the Lord, and threw my guys in front of the Legion Loyalist, get rid of that guy. And, yeah, took some damage and went down to 15. Going to take both AEther Vials up here. Oh, that's pretty good. Drawing that land, I think I'm just going to slam Master of Waves right now, actually. So let's go ahead and get Vendilion Clique in. Target the opponent. 2 mountains. It's pretty much lights out. Swing with the Lords. They have no good blocks. So they're going to take 3 here. We're going to slam Master of Waves. And with 2 mountains in their hand, I can't imagine that they're going to stick it out. 7 elemental tokens, and yeah, the opponent scooped at that point. So an equally lopsided game there, this time in Merfolk's favor. Didn't see any Deprives, didn't see any Bends, which are the new additions to the deck, but Vendilion Clique actually did a pretty nice job. Lines up well against the Signal Pest. Let's go ahead and see game 3 for how things turned out. All right, back for game 3. The opponent's on the play this time, which is a little bit scary. And yeah, this is keepable, I think. Opponent mulliganed, which is good for us. Okay, so Signal Pest, not very aggressive. And that land was really, really good. That's exactly what we wanted to see. So get Benthic Biomancer down on the board. And the opponent bolts him right away. This is an interesting phenomenon that I've noticed since playing Benthic Biomancer is opponents will often just like throw a Fatal Push or a Lightning Bolt his way before I even tried to adapt. So that just means that, you know, our other creatures aren't going to eat bolts. It's also possible that it's the only thing the opponent can do. So now it's time to just play a Silvergill Adept. I think I'm going to reveal Harbinger. Even though it's kind of a trick, I'd rather not reveal Master of Waves at this point. I mean, honestly, it doesn't really matter. The opponent is clearly stuck on lands, which, you know, means we're almost certainly going to win this game. I think here we pass to the opponent's draw step. I see what they're working with Vendilion Clique. So these bolts have done a good job of keeping our board clear, but they're really not doing anything while I keep hitting my land drops. So for this turn, they didn't draw land either, and I'd really like to not let them hit more lands. So I'm just going to let them keep these cards. They drew all 4 lightning bolts, which is probably why they kept. But, you know, we're going to hit Master of Waves soon, and that's going to be hard for them to resist. We still have a Harbinger left. We got a Mutavault on the board, so we can let them keep what they've got. They're probably going to bolt this Vendilion Clique. Yep, but the Signal Pest isn't getting in either, so I think I'm just going to slam Master of Waves here. I don't really mind that we don't have the Devotion, because we, you know, with Mutavault, we now have 7 power on board. We've got an Echoing Truth, and you know, we're going to draw more creatures eventually too. So the opponent actually scooped at that point, which may have been premature, but I guess that they were just frustrated. You know, that happens when you go 4 turns without drawing a second land. I know how it feels. Well, so we got trounced in game 1. Benthic Biomancer ate a Lightning Bolt on turn 1, so we didn't get to use his ability. Yeah, so hopefully we'll see more of this guy in rounds 2 through 5 of this league. But starting off 1-0, don't feel too bad about that. Even with the main deck Deprives, we were able to get past super aggressive deck. So please let me know your thoughts. Sorry about the poor performance in game 1. As I mentioned, you know, I'm still getting my chops back a little bit. And this was the first match of this league. So yeah, please leave comments. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Please check out my Patreon page if you'd like to support the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next video where I'll be back with the second round. See you there.